Howdy, everybody, and welcome on in. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic out there as the Miami Heat are on an off day, and it's never a slow day when it comes to the Jimmy Butler news saga. Today, juicier day than yesterday, I would say, although I guess there was a development or something like that. Shams Charania dropping reports. You got the local guys with some great stuff. Chris Haynes was on the Levitard show dropping a bunch of nuggets as well. The first thing that had come out today that was known was that Shams dropped a report that Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler had met face-to-face, and that Jimmy Butler had reiterated to him that he wants a trade. And according to Shams, not only did he reiterate that, but also said that he would not sign a new deal with the Heat, and that he would only use his $52 million player option for a trade. And that, according to Shams' sources. Then this was also added by Shams that Heat officials were going to meet later in the week to discuss the best route to take with Jimmy Butler. Ira Winderman added on to this, probably to me, the most interesting news of the day, which is that Jimmy Butler plans to have a sit-down with Heat owner Micky Arison this week. It says with the Heats, it's from the Sun Sentinel, with the Miami Heat's 7-game unpaid suspension of forward Jimmy Butler scheduled to be completed on Wednesday night's game against the Los Angeles Lakers at Crypto.com Arena. It is what follows the next day that could determine what comes next in this ongoing saga. And that is when Heat owner Micky Arison is expected to meet with Butler ahead of Butler's scheduled return Friday night against the Denver Nuggets at the Kaseya Center. According to multiple NBA sources familiar with the process, Arison is not in favor of allowing Butler to remain away from the team while continuing to collect a contract that pays him $48.8 million this season. As previously reported by the Sun Sentinel, Butler met with Heat president Pat Riley prior to traveling to Southern California to check on his house in the area amid the wildfires, and then appearing at Monday night's jersey retirement of former Riley player Michael Cooper. The Micky Arison thing is the most interesting thing here to me, because it immediately makes me think of the last time a Heat player had a sit down with Micky Arison, which I could only really rattle my brain of like one time this has happened in recent history, and that was with Dwayne Wade. And pretty much the next day, if not the next couple of days, Dwayne Wade was a Chicago Bull. The idea that it has gotten to the point where it cannot just be solved with a Riley face-to-face kind of shows you where those two guys are, and not to have Mickey play, I guess, good cop, but like, let's just cut past all the frostiness that you have with Pat Riley, which does seem very genuine, which we can get to a little bit with the Chris Haynes stuff that was reported here today. But the idea that Mickey is going to sit down with him, if Jimmy Butler is headstrong and he meets with him on Thursday, does that then move the bar as to when the Heat will make a trade? Will Mickey advise against Jimmy staying away from the team? I don't know. But I do find it pretty significant that the owner himself is going to sit down with Butler. The idea that he's met with Pat is, I guess a good sign in that, all right, there's no BS going on between the media, even though there was more stuff dropping through the media today. But at least I guess those guys know where each other stands. That was kind of my question in the first place to Jimmy, which I guess can lead us into the Chris Haynes stuff. But I find the idea that Jimmy is meeting with Micky Arison significant, and I wouldn't guarantee that means that Jimmy is going to absolutely play on Friday. Though it says that Mickey is not in favor of allowing Butler to remain away with the team. Maybe Mickey comes out of that and is like, but that's where the direction I want to go. So it's going to be interesting. It definitely is going to be interesting to find out what comes from that. And it has to feel like, if that's the case, right? Mickey has the meeting with Jimmy. Officials are supposed to meet, I guess, I would assume on Thursday as well. Maybe that does lead the direction into them pulling the trigger on some kind of trade just to get it done and get this all out of house. Because I think everybody knows right now. It seems like the Miami Heat are staring down the barrel of a circus on Friday night. I really do. It feels like that, and I know the Heat don't want to be pushed into making a desperate move. And I'm not here suggesting just take on Bradley Beal's contract. I'm not. But if it's true, if what is true that there's deals out there that can put the Miami Heat in a position to be, off of all of this by next year or at least by 2026, then, I think that the Miami Heat probably should take a good hard look at that, because this has gotten to a ridiculous point. This is silly. All the stuff that is getting thrown out there. Not that there's not validity to people's feelings and that there's not stuff that probably could have been handled better, way better on both sides with all of this. But I do keep coming back to that locker room. And while Eric Spoelstra can put the blinders on and not think about it, I think it's hard for the Heat players to have to deal with that. I think we already saw the stress of that with the game that you had at the first day of the suspension when they got the snot kicked out of them by Utah. I mean, that just looked like a team that was completely mentally exhausted. The game beforehand in the locker room, it was very, very weird. And I don't know, man. I have a hard time learning the news that Mickey is sitting down with him. I know everybody is going from the standpoint of, they're going to, they're prepared. We're fully prepared. I don't think you are fully prepared. I don't think anybody could be fully prepared, because how can you do this under the guise of, I don't like my role, I don't like how I'm being used, or whatever is being thrown out there. So these were some of the notes that were dropped on the Dan Le Batard show today by Chris Haynes, longtime NBA insider. Good relationship with Jimmy Butler. You remember that he was doing sidelines for TNT last year, and Jimmy Butler told him we're going to go up 2-1 on this team. And then, of course, that ultimately led to the F1 comments that Pat Riley was none too pleased about. And apparently, yes, those comments did not go over well with Jimmy, the keep your mouth shut comments. And Pat Riley, apparently, this is from Chris Haynes, was informed that a face-to-face was necessary with Jimmy after all that went down, and it never materialized. They didn't communicate via text, phone conversation, or face-to-face, but that apparently Jimmy Butler wanted Pat Riley to meet him at his home in San Diego and have something happen with that. Listen, I don't know. The idea that Pat, went into frostiness mode with Jimmy is not great. I think that communication is always the best with this. And if that is true, knowing that probably would have rubbed a player the wrong way, and knowing the type of ways that Pat has handled things in the past, how things have gone awry with players, if that is true, that they hadn't spoken, I guess according to this, they hadn't spoken until, January 1st, I think they had said, which is an interesting one, because the reason that's interesting to me is the question that I asked Jimmy about, have you talked about Riley, about where this stands? And that was the only question he wouldn't answer that day of a media session that apparently he did not, according to Chris Haynes, did not want to be a part of because it put him in a bad position. Get to that in just a second. But they had not, according to this report, not spoken until the next day, if the timelines are matching, because that was on New Year's Eve. This was on, then Haynes is reporting that they met on New Year's Day. By the way, from Chris Haynes, he said that he was getting all of this stuff from the Jimmy Butler camp. He had reached out to the Heat, and the Heat, I guess, before he got on with Dan Le Batard, and that he himself had not heard back from them in time, but who knows how much time they were given with this. But yeah, part of this was Jimmy was upset that the first day back from his sickness that he had to speak to the media at practice. I don't really understand him being upset by that. I genuinely don't. First of all, how could you not think that you were going to speak to the media? Like, you hadn't been with the team for 2 weeks. You are practicing. yeah, they're gonna like. What did you didn't think that was gonna be a request? Like, I don't. If you don't think, like, I know Jimmy doesn't like to speak to the media a lot, but like, if you don't think you're gonna speak to the media, if not, then you're just supposed to do it when, after a game. This is all supposed to be asked. So I understand if Jimmy thinks that he's in a bad position, but I to say that the Heat put him in a bad position, I think that's kind of horseshit, because obviously the questions have to be asked. And the other funny thing about this is the idea that they feel that the Heat are leaking the trade rumors, especially to Shams. I don't know, man. I don't understand why the Heat who have basically went about this one way, right? The Heat have gone about this wanting as little noise as possible, and anytime it seems there is some kind of a flare-up of noise, it feels like it's coming from Jimmy Butler's camp erupting it, right? Like the whole his agent coming back and saying, Shams, how dare you? Don't use my name. And then Jimmy being like, I can use that as like a, at least somebody sticking up for me. Like, a lot of this just feels, I don't know, played up. It doesn't add up why the Miami Heat would be leaking Jimmy Butler trade rumors. And especially if the whole idea was Jimmy Butler wanted to go to one team, which everybody has known has been a big obstacle the entire time, right? So to me, the idea that, the Heat were originally leaking trade rumors, like, I don't think that's true. I mean, like, just from a logic standpoint, hasn't what the Heat wanted the entire time of this understood that Jimmy Butler was upset about not getting the contract extension. And I'm not saying Jimmy Butler doesn't have a right to be pissed at Pat Riley for telling him to shut up. But if we just take this from what the Miami Heat wanted, was it not just for Jimmy Butler to come and play basketball this season? Right? Like one team has Jimmy Butler under contract for at least this year with an option year. So he has like the safety net. But all they wanted, I truly feel, is like, hey, Jimmy, can you come play basketball this season and we figure it out? Can we come back from a year where we got embarrassed by the Celtics? The Celtics won the championship. You got hurt. Can we try and give this a go? And then it's just kind of like, I'm not getting my extension. That's a problem. And Pat Riley not meeting with me face to face is a problem. And the offense is a problem. So, well, that's like everything's a problem. Everything's a problem. There's nothing going your way. Everything has been built and leading to against you. And I don't know, man. I just find that to be silly. This one was crazy. Jimmy's agent said after the Pelicans game, when he got called out for effort, that they brought up second spectrum statistics that tracked his speed, that said that he had the fastest miles per hour of anybody on the team. All right, dude. What was his mile per hour on the one-legged three? You tell me, dude. Was it faster than Bam turning around and like throwing up his shoulder? Like, what are you doing? I don't know, man. That to me, I was finding a lot of this stuff from Haynes. The most interesting thing, all right, here's the most interesting one to me out of all the Haynes drops, was that the Pat Riley comments really upset him, and he wanted to meet with Riley. If Riley truly didn't reach out at any point to make that right or to hear his guy out, that's a bad job by Pat Riley. And I honestly could see Pat Riley just saying, nah, no thanks, because he's Pat Riley, and he can kind of be cold in that sense. He can kind of be, a hard ass in that sense, and not feeling like he really owes Jimmy Butler anything. There was also the case of the private jets or the private flights, which had he said, I was told in the last 5 years as Chris Haynes that Jimmy Butler took less than 5 separate flights from the team, and 4 of them were in the finals against the Denver Nuggets when his father was sick. The private flights thing to me, anything that the Heat leak about, or anything that has been leaked about private flights or Airbnbs or staying away from the team, like, dude, we all have Instagram. If any legitimate Heat fan is upset about that, or if anybody from the Heat is trying to use that as something, like, come on, let's grow up. That to me is like, if you're trying to use that as a knock against Jimmy, you guys had that be okay for years. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And I think any Heat fan that truly has been around watching this, like, knows this. Who cares? That to me is like, if Jimmy Butler wanted 41 separate flights, and that was okayed by the Heat for 5 years, then okay, sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that to me is one of those where the fact that he even has to defend that is weird to me. It's a strange thing. But even if the idea that he hasn't done it that much, again, I don't know that the Heat leaked that. I don't know. But to me, I was like, all right, but who cares? Like, you guys knew what you signed up for. That's weird to me. That's now being a point of issue. But they're both on this side. Like, this has become such a petty back and forth between both the Heat and Jimmy Butler, when we know what the real root of the issue is. Like this idea that there's another one that Jimmy showed up and there was a new offense that was more threes and pace that didn't lean into his style, and that this was this was gonna mess up his bag. Like, come on, dude. Like, Jimmy, do you really think, first of all, in the regular season, we've seen Jimmy Butler flip the switch on, flip the switch off of when he wants to dictate the terms of a game? I've never seen a player like it. Like, nobody can go 0 to 100 like Jimmy Butler. System of a game, be damned. The guy is a marvel. Like, this is one of the things I love about him as a player, is like it's confounding how, like, he can go from roving, pick his spots, and then boom, he's like into a different mindset, attack. Maybe it's somebody just setting him off. And this whole idea that the system was messed up, like, okay, you're never gonna get me to be like, that truly was what set him off. I can't get down with that. And it's like, dude, if you didn't think that the Miami Heat needed a little help offensively after the last years they've had, I don't know. That's a strange one to me. And to think that it was going to take away any of your dollars or I don't know, man. That all of that stuff. I had to talk at practice. I had to lean into a different offense. The Heat were leaking rumors. No, I'm not buying any of it. There was also a weird thing. This was a strange one that they had. There was a time where apparently Jimmy Butler was upset over the summer that his paycheck was like 10 days late. That's, which I guess had never happened before. Like, all right, so it's like, you thought the Heat weren't going to pay you? I don't know. Again, this is one of those where I'm like, all of this stuff being out here really just does lead me to believe that this Friday thing is going to be a circus if it does happen. I know that everybody is saying he fully is prepared to play. The Miami Herald, they reported that if Butler is asked to rejoin the team and be in uniform for his end of season suspension, the expectation is Butler will oblige. The way that Anthony reports, he will oblige to be available in order to avoid losing more of his salary. And even just the way that Anthony writes that, who's also just been very good on reporting all of this story, makes me feel like, oh, he's going to do the bare minimum once he gets there. Like, this is not going to be normal. And that's why it feels very much like once this meeting happens with Micky Arison on Thursday, I'm leaning more and more to believe that, like, the logical step is they're either going to tell him to stay home or and they're going to pay him, or he's going to tell that front office, what is the trade that doesn't hamstring us that we can make right now that everybody can agree to? We've all been, circling around this nonsense. But when the owner's going to meet with him, feels very much like there has to be a resolution. Because if you meet with Mickey and you're still going to be spinning your wheels after this, I think at that point, as a Heat, if the Heat do that, to be honest with you, if the Heat do that, you guys are welcoming whatever the hell happens. Okay? For an organization that likes to keep the circus away and likes to keep the nonsense away, if the owner meets with Butler And he doesn't get the sense. And I really would like to know, because they have been apparently told this before, that they felt, he was going to be fully engaged, which they clearly did not agree with. Whatever Jimmy wants to say why it happened. Being called out for effort, role, whatever he wants to throw out there after having 2 weeks off and a reconditioning program. If Micky Arison comes out of that, thinks Jimmy Butler's going to play hard, and then gets duped again, I don't know, man. I don't know how you can allow yourself to get bit in the ass like that again. So I truly hope there is either a real resolution and he truly believes that Jimmy Butler would give it his all, or he really just finally hears it from the man, just maybe like he did with D-Wade. It's over. Keep him away until we figure it out. But the owner meeting with Jimmy Butler, to me, when Mickey is getting involved directly face to face, hey, can we argue all this stuff should have been done? Certainly. That it's been dragged out this much? Totally. Why is it taking this long? Heat fans, are you frustrated by it? I hear all that. Do they have ownership in this? Hell yeah, they do. Did they maximize this window or to the point where it's interesting, because it's probably like exceeded expectations, but it yet also feels like a disappointment because you got so close when you didn't expect to, and that if you just would have tweaked here and there, or if something else would have gone their way, who knows? If somebody's health would have held up a certain year. It happens, man. Sometimes people get really close in sports and you don't get there all the way. And I understand even from the Heat's perspective. I was a pro pay Jimmy guy and put the drama of all this, whatever the last 3 weeks have been, aside. As pro pay Jimmy Butler as I was, it's not my organization. It's Micky Arison's organization. They have never made it a point to pay aging stars. They are very uncomfortable doing that. They have a statue of the guy. One of their president didn't think it was prudent to. They're lucky that guy came back and played on minimums, by the way. But the owner meeting with Butler, to me, out of everything reported today, is the most significant thing, and almost is going to lead me to lean into, I don't think Jimmy Butler's going to play for the Heat on Friday. As much as everybody's playing, we're going to do it. Believe it when I see it. If Mickey's getting involved, makes me feel like that to me is like final lever. Let's find a resolution. He needs to hear it from the man himself, and then they can go into another direction.